Good morning, Gremolinos. I thought I would start the vlog in a slightly different room. Also, my cold foam literally started melting as soon as I put it on the coffee. That cold foam is not good. So it's like a prepackaged one. It's just the squirt kind from Coffee Mate, I think. Yeah, it's a weird flavor. It tastes like butterscotch and I kind of hoped it wouldn't, but it does. We kind of bought it on a whim. It was on sale. But it's not very good. I will drink this entire cup of coffee though. I'm not wasting good coffee. But also, well, so you might be like, Catherine, all you've shown us is making coffee and toaster strudel, which I did microwave because the centers felt cold. So, yeah, I'm also really bad at putting the frosting icing, the icing stuff on. You've seen this sweatshirt. This has nothing to do with the vlog. But yeah, so this is kind of an impromptu vlog. I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to vlog. I do have some books in at the library and I have some Libby holds that I'm waiting on. And if you watched my last video, you will know that my How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates Libby hold has been in for almost a month at this point. I'm second in line now, but it's taking a while. I do want to include it in this vlog. So my plan for this is I'm just going to read things that I found on Libby and library books that come in. It's going to primarily be horror because How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates is a horror romance. The other literally dead book club pick that I have in at the library is The Fisherman, and it is horror. I think it's cosmic horror. So I have both of those. Again, How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates is just gonna wait until it comes in. It'll probably be the final book in this vlog. I'm just gonna hold the vlog until I get the book. The other books are gonna be a little random because this morning, while I was like getting situated for work, I was early, so I had time. I randomly went on, like, just started looking at books that I have on like a saved list, and started seeing if they were in. And surprisingly, 3 books were in through Libby. I have a New York Public Library card because I live in New York. You can use your address to apply for one, and I got one. So I have 3 books, all of which I have wanted to read for a very long time. They're kind of random. So I will introduce the books as I get to them. So you're going to be in suspense, but just know they're all horror or like horror adjacent in some capacity. I do technically think they're all categorized as horror, but I haven't double checked that. I'm very excited to read all of them. So I definitely have 3 books ready to go on, like, in Libby. Krista is gonna pick up The Fisherman for me over the weekend. It's in, but she's not picking it up today, which is fine. But yeah, so I'll introduce books as we go. Be ready for some horror. Also know that you can utilize your library for a lot of things. And if you live in New York, you can get a New York Public Library card. They just ask for your address and you have to click a specific button. But also if you go to New York, like the city, not the state, I mean, it's in the state, whatever. If you go to the actual New York Public Library in New York City, you can get a physical card if you want. I haven't done that. I haven't been to New York City. I have no idea when I'm going to New York City. Cat, what are you doing? Do not. Bane, don't do it. He wants to jump on a bookcase. He's right there. He's priming. He wants to. I already yelled at him. But yeah, so I could get a physical card next time I'm in New York City, which would be cool. But yeah, for the time being, just know this is the opening of the vlog. I actually have to get to work. I have a couple minutes and I just thought I would share that with you. So be ready. As some hints as we get into the vlog. One is a Frankenstein retelling. Another is a prequel to one of my favorite musicals. The other is, I don't even know how to describe it. I know it's sapphic, but so the third one is sapphic. So be ready. There will be 5 books hopefully in this vlog. And yeah, oh, I'm about to cough. I started wheezing all of a sudden, which is annoying. Oh, I didn't even do my, so if you're new here, my name's Catherine. I have asthma. I also have most of my 10 fingers. I normally do like a little intro thing, but because I forgot, I'm not gonna do it. I could. You don't need it. But yeah, so I have asthma, so I cough kind of consistently in the videos. Sorry, it just happens. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not editing it out because this is my life. And then I was in a snowblower accident and injured my right hand and lost the entire tip off one finger and half of a tip on another finger, which is why I have almost 10 fingers. But yeah, so there you go. That's the intro. I'm not doing my, like, the one I've been trying to do for the past few videos because, like, I forgot. But I gotta go. I'm gonna keep this cat away from my toaster strudel. I'm gonna eat it while I'm checking email stuff. And yeah, so I will see you at some point when I'm actually like reading a book. I'll present it to you. You'll get book things. This is all books. There may be discussions of our dogs and our cats. Mostly the dogs probably, because Chloe does have a vet appointment coming up, but we shall see. But yeah, I also did not feel like putting on makeup or doing my hair today, so we're just chilling. I though will talk to you later, Gremlinos. Hello, I know you can't see me, Gremlinos, but it came in, it's right here, look, it says I can borrow it. I just screamed and really scared Chloe. But it came in. We're watching Gabby, you can't see her at all. There you go. Gabby Reed's vlog. And she was talking about how to kill a guy in 10 dates, and I literally went, my hold still isn't in, and it's digital, because Krista went to the library for me today. She actually planned a very cute day that I will tell you about in just a second. But I have the book. I'm going to borrow it, and I'm going to start reading it at some point today, because I've been waiting so long. Book. Yes.
There, I'll let you read tonight, and then therefore I've given you the perfect day.
There you go. Okay, let me flip this around. Just be prepared for flipping. There's Akira. There's probably more laundry. There is a Bane. There's a wife. Okay, so Krista, today, we did sleep in. So I have to give Chloe medicine at 6 o'clock in the morning, and so Chloe woke me up at like 5:45. I gave her the medicine she has to take. We went back to sleep. We got up at 7:30 to do her outs and give her her other medicine. She's on a lot of medicines. You're not getting any right now, I promise. We did that, and then Krista actually last night got so uncomfortable in our king-size bed because both Roddies gave her no space. She went and slept on the floor bed we have downstairs. So she went to bed downstairs, like, that was at like 11 or something?
11.
Yeah, she was like, I'm going downstairs. Like, I'm not gonna be able to get any sleep. Please just, I'll be downstairs. So, I was up here with the girls. We got up at 7:30. Chloe woke Krista up when we went downstairs. She like checked on her and gave her like little kisses. Oh, that's very cute. But after everyone got fed and outed and Chloe got medicated, Krista was like, why don't you take the girls back upstairs? You all go back to sleep. I'm gonna go back to sleep. When I get up, I'll go out and get, or you said I'll bring you coffee, is what she said. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay. So we all went back to sleep. Then Krista came in at like 10. And was like, hey, do you want Chrissy Beans, which is like my favorite coffee spot in town. It's a local place. So she went out and got my library holds, the physical ones. And then she went and picked up Chrissy Beans, and we had breakfast in bed with the girls, and she got me a really cool coffee that was like salted caramel maple, which is baffling because I normally am very picky about salted caramel, but it was really good. And then we just chilled and watched Shrinking, and then she picked up barbecue for me from my like favorite barbecue spot. So Krista has planned a very, very fancy like all me day, which was very, very sweet of her. Now we're just hanging out in bed, but it's very sweet. She said it's because I've been stressed and had a lot going on lately. And yeah, so, and now I'm gonna read later, which is exciting because I've been waiting to read this book for forever. Okay. Oh, I knew I was gonna cough. Remember the asthma? If you're here and you're new, asthma, it makes me cough. It's consistent. I don't edit it out because I cough a lot. But yeah, so we're gonna finish this video, hang out, yeah, and just relax for the rest of the day. So I'll fill you in when I have a book thing, and then I'll have to fill you in on what's happening tomorrow, because technically I am being kidnapped. Technically. Sort of. I'll explain later. But we're gonna finish this and relax, and I will talk to you later, Gremlinos, when I have a How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates update, which is so exciting. So exciting. I've been waiting a month for this book. Alright, I'm gonna go. Good morning, Gremlinos. It is Sunday, and daylight savings time happened, which I hate. I'm so tired. But I have new coffee. Behold, Joffrey's Irish Cream. So if you don't know, I get a free bag of Joffrey's coffee because of this like contest every month. And I have been getting them since October? September? Oh my gosh. This is the 6th bag. So just subtract, go back 6 months. I'm too tired this morning. But this is the new flavor, which I'm very excited about because I love Irish cream coffee. And I'm making it in my very cool, leave me alone, my favorite fictional character just died Strand mug. I also have on a themed shirt, which I'll show you later because I need to talk to you about How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates. But I need coffee first, and also I have 15 minutes before I'm leaving my house apparently. So yeah, I got a speed eat, speed drink, and I may not be able to tell you about the book until I get home, but we shall see. I'm gonna go get caffeinated Gremolinos. Hello, Gremolinos. I'm back from my kidnapping. So I'll let you know what I was up to. This window is in a weird spot. Hold on. Salem's in my spot on the bed. So there we go. So what wound up happening is Krista's folks run some errands in town every so often because they like pick up stuff for their dogs where we live. And they offered to like take me with them to do some like shopping and get lunch because I haven't really left the house since Chloe's surgery. And so I went with them. We're only out for like an hour, maybe an hour and a half. It was not like a long, extensive day. Maybe 2 hours, I guess, since it was not a lot of time. We just went and walked through TJ Maxx, where I actually found something for my sister. They had 2 of the Game Changers books. They had Game Changer and Role Model for half off. And so I grabbed them for her. She already knows, so that's why I'm saying it here. And I got a toy for Chloe because apparently Chloe was very upset that I left the house and she was pouting. So I got her this like pink hippo toy. We call it a hippo pig. She had one before, but it got damaged. And so I saw one and I was like, oh, I'll get that. And then we went to Ollie's and I got canned pumpkin spice coffees that were $3, like super cheap. And then a thing of pumpkin spice Pop-Tarts for $2. Like I did not spend a lot of money. That was not my goal, but I just thought, I was like, oh, that would be really helpful. Mostly because when Summerween comes around, there's normally like a have something pumpkin spice prompt and I never really have anything on hand. And I was like, oh, these would be perfect. Plus I could try them before then and see if I like them. But I'm actually here to talk to you officially about How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates. And I even read the description, so I would not spoil things. I'm also wearing this Love You to Death sweatshirt because I thought it was perfect for the theme. I took a photo in it. Oh, my arm's gonna get tired. Okay, so behold, How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates, and I'm gonna put it down for the duration. So I did read the synopsis so that I wouldn't spoil anything that's not in the synopsis to begin with. So in this, we're following Jamie Prescott and her friend Lori Hamilton. They've lived together for about 5 years. That's not in the synopsis, but it gives you an idea of how close they are. They are both like graduate students. Lori is currently working on, actually I'm not sure that we get into that. She wants to make documentaries, and Jamie is trying to write a dissertation on comparative analysis of horror movies and rom-coms and how she believes that the two genres basically mirror each other in that there are rules, and that our leading lady slash final girl has to follow these rules to get through. So really that is used to introduce you to the idea that this is a rom-com slasher. So that is really what establishes it. I admittedly could have done without the introduction of her thesis and having to read part of it. I think we could have just like started the book and mentioned that she was working on it, but that's up to the author. We are with the 2 of them as they go to a speed dating event, and this is part of a routine they've been doing. They've been going to like a monthly kind of dating event. So this is not out of the norm. It is something they're doing. There is a tease that there is someone doing horrible things in the area. There is a woman found in her apartment, and that is mentioned going into speed dating. And then once at speed dating, it's kind of glossed over, but as the reader, you know that's important because obviously we know something happens at speed dating. Once speed dating starts, we're about at the halfway point of it, and then the guy sitting in front, this is in the synopsis, sitting in front of Jamie has his throat slit and dies. The lights then go off and just chaos ensues. There are more deaths. There are survivors hiding. There's so much going on, and it does turn into a slasher story. We are with Jamie in first person to survive the night with her friend Lori, who she desperately wants to ensure makes it out alive. And also there are other women, there are other men. And during all of this, Jamie is kind of caught in a pseudo love triangle, I'm going to call it, because there are 2 guys that she met during speed dating, Wes and John, that she kind of hit it off with. Wes, things felt a little weird, but ultimately she liked him, and she's spending a lot of time with Wes during the course of this book and is kind of realizing that she does have feelings for him. And then John, who she's also, like, their date went incredibly well, and then she kind of like is around him and also still has these like, maybe we should, like, maybe I do like him. They do argue in the book, there's a, in case you think it's weird that during a slasher situation she would be thinking about this, they do mention like some kind of psychological thing where in high stress situations your brain and you as a person try to cope by focusing on something else. They call it something attraction. And so that is what her friend Lori says is happening here. She's like, you're obviously going through this, like you're just trying to survive, but also your brain is trying to like keep you from stressing out. Now Jamie knows all the rules of slashers. She has her own set of rules, different from Randy's from the Scream movies. And he, oh, and she presents them at a certain point to the group because she is trying to make sure as many people get out alive as possible. Now, there are aspects of this book that are fun. The slasher element does read a lot like a horror movie. It does have some very creepy, like, kill moments, though we are not present for all of them. So it's like coming upon them. It is very, there are moments of really good tension. There are some cute romance moments, but the story itself, admittedly going into this, I was concerned that I was not going to be the biggest fan. I thought it was kind of a stretch. I was very curious to see how it would go. And I do think there are probably a number of people who very much enjoyed this. I was kind of ambivalent to it. It took me until they were in the, like, we have to save our lives situation to care about anyone. And some of that did stem from the fact that there are just so many references to horror movies. So many that it's kind of like beating you over the head with the fact that Jamie and probably our author very much loves horror. Almost every character's name is either a character, a creator, an actor who is tied to a movie franchise, and like very noticeably so. Like Jamie Prescott, Jamie Lee Curtis, Sidney Prescott. Laurie is Laurie Strode, and her last name is Hamilton, like Linda Hamilton. Wes, like Wes Craven. Who else? Oh, there's a Billy, there's a Stu. One of those is a girl. There's, yeah, Billy, Stu. There's just a lot. And there are also some rom-com names that you will recognize. And then on top of that, the building was previously called Craven. I-N, but I was thinking Wes Craven when I saw it because of Wes. Because when he gets introduced, I was like, oh, that makes sense. But it's named to Serendipity, like the movie. So there are a lot of references. And the problem is because everyone's name draws from some kind of horror thing, while you're reading it, I specifically started to be like, okay, so this is probably a clue, right? Like some of these are misdirects, some of these are clues, like some of this is to tell me who the bad guys are. And I say that as a broad thing because I don't want to reveal anything. I just like, I don't know. There were so many references. And while I do love references to horror movies and like rom-coms, if that's what the book is really focusing on, because we're doing two genres together, it's so constant that I was like, oh my gosh, this is so many references. Like, why are we doing all this? This is too much work. Because if you've read other books where the character really loves horror movies, the real problem is I was comparing it to how the Angel of Indian Lake books handled Jade loving horror movies, and that felt more organic and like easier to take in. Like it felt more natural than the way it was happening in this book. It was just like so constant, and I was like, everything that is happening is a reference. Like everything was a reference. And what bugged me the most about these references is at a certain point we do see the killer, and the killer's mask has heart eyes, and our main character starts to call him Hard Eyes. And then she's like, oh, there's probably a movie that does that. Like, but I don't know what that would be called. And I'm like, the movie is Hard Eyes. Like, you were talking about the movie Hard Eyes. His mask sounds very, very similar to the mask for the killer in Hard Eyes, excluding the color, but is very, very similar. And I was just like, really? We're going to name him Hard Eyes and then casually pretend we don't know that there's a movie called Hard Eyes? Because there's no way, based on when this was published and when that movie came out, you wouldn't know. And I was just like, okay, that's weird. Why would you do that? Like, the Heart Eyes motif for the killer is fine, but I think the issue, if you're doing so many very specific references, that she just doesn't know the movie that Heart Eyes would come from, felt so glaringly strange. Now, perhaps the book was written well in advance of that movie coming out and then that was added in, but I feel like no. I just don't think so. So that kind of like struck me. Overall, again, it is fine. There's some high action moments. There is a sex scene, which I was not anticipating. I know it's a romance, but I also was like, you are all in danger. So that was curious to me. And so overall, I think it's fine. I don't think it was my cup of tea. I think I either would have preferred this be... I just think if there had been less horror movie references, which sounds so strange, I probably would have been into it more, because with everyone's name drawing from a horror movie for the most part, you will notice something as you're going in. And at that, like, there were certain reveals where I was like, this is kind of glaringly obvious. Why are we acting like this is a huge thing? And And that happened to me twice. That did happen in part during the reveal for the killer and for another character. And both of those times I was like, but why are we surprised? Like, I was just like, I'm not surprised. Was I supposed to be? Like, I was just like, no. But like, again, all the names are from horror movies or rom-coms. And as you're reading it, it just like, some things start to stick out to you. And I was like, coolio, cool. So it was fine. I can see why people would like it. I do. I just was like, fine. Like, I was like, this is fine. I'm having an okay time. And also, if you've seen the movie Valentine, I have not read the book, but it's on KU and I'm going to read it probably in the next vlog, because I'm focusing on these library books I have out. Valentine focuses on a themed killer, very similar to the theme this killer is going with. And as it was progressing, I was like, no, I just feel like I'm reading Valentine, which was so awkward, like reading the movie. And it's not exact. It's not a complete comparison. It is not. But elements of it started to make me think of it. And I was like, oh no, like this is taking me out a little bit. So some of it is I had consumed too many things that I was then like, we are being so obvious. And I was just like, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. Nothing is really surprising me. But again, the survival elements are cool. Watching the characters get through everything is cool. There are a number of characters. So they do have a lot of characters because it's a big dating event who kind of disappear and you don't really know who they are. So you do have the element of surprise working for you. The only problem is I personally, as soon as they were like, we don't know what's happened to a number of people, I disregarded them completely. So that is not something all people would do, but I did. I was like, oh, okay, they don't exist to me anymore. Like, I was just like, whatever. So like, yeah, it was fine. I do applaud the author for doing a slasher romance, but again, it does kind of exist already. Like, Heart Eyes the movie is very fun and has a lot of romance in it and has a Heart Eyes killer. Like, I would really recommend that you watch that. And I feel like if you watch that and then you read this, you're not gonna be as like invested, I wanna say. Like, I feel like having watched that and then having read this, I was less like surprised or shocked. I don't know. And like that movie, they're not comparable exactly. So like that isn't even it. It was just like some elements. I was just like, one, I do think the book is too long. I think you could build the same amount of tension with fewer pages and I would have been fine with that. And there is an epilogue, which I don't think actually needed to exist. I just don't. They could have just gone and I would have been fine. And I normally like an epilogue. I just like did not care about this one in any way. It was fine. I don't know. I do know that Lauren from Happy Haunts Library kind of warned me that she wasn't a huge fan. And I was like, oh, okay. Because a lot of people have been very into this. And I just like, as I was reading it, I was like, I am not somehow the target audience for this. And I love horror movies. I've watched a ton of rom-coms because my wife loves them. And I just felt that I had too much knowledge. Like, if I had been able to like tell myself not to think about all of the things she was referencing, I would have been fine. But it was just like very glaringly making me start to like fixate on who was who and what was what. And I was like, I'm not surprised by anything. Also, I really did not like the quotes at the top of each chapter. There were too many of them. There are technically 40 quotes that are altered quotes from rom-coms primarily at the top of every chapter, and I just started like not reading them. I glanced over them, but they like didn't tie into the chapters at all, and they were all kind of weird. And I was like, this would be funny as like an opener for the book, but overall not my jam. So again, it was fine. I think it could have been shorter. I think removing some of the references and even changing some of the names would have helped me a little bit, because I was just so fixated on like, okay, like if they're all horror movie names, like I'm gonna start making guesses about the characters. Sorry, I started coughing and that was happening. Yeah, so I don't know. The book was what the book was. And it just was not for me, which is unfortunate. I have though finally picked what I'm reading next. I had a clip, I was like trying to film a clip of me picking it and the lighting was terrible. So I deleted it and we're refilming, but it's gonna be really quick because I'm just going to show you that we're reading The Butcher's Daughter, the hitherto untold story of Mrs. Lovett, a novel by David Demchuk and Corinne Lee Clark. This is a prequel to Sweeney Todd. and I am very curious. So we're reading this next after I was kind of like on so many cover pages on the How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates book, and I've been very excited to read this book and could not get it and just realized it was in Libby. So I'm gonna read that and I'll update you on that at some point. Probably not tonight, but who knows. But I gotta go. I've been up here for forever. So I will talk to you later about The Butcher's Daughter when I can. Gremolinos. Hello, Gremolinos. Oh, you almost can't see it now. I totally have a zit on my nose. And I was very sure you could see it. I'm like having like a whole breakout thing happening. I don't want to put makeup on it because I know that'll make it worse. So I put some like stuff on it, but it does look like it's going down-ish. So that's nice. I am here because I have a full book update for you. Now, I had planned to actually update you like at the halfway point of The Butcher's Daughter. Ta-da! But the issue is this book has no chapters. This is an entirely epistolary novel told in the form of letters, diary entries, a couple like newspaper clippings, and primarily they are discussions between a woman in a priory whose name is, oh gosh, let me grab the name that she's using. It is ultimately Mrs. Lovett, as the title would suggest, but that is not the name she's going by. And you'll understand why as you read the story. Now, going into this, you know this is the story of Mrs. Lovett. So just keep that in mind, because we are introduced to characters who say they don't know who Mrs. Lovett is, they do not know that woman, but the title does kind of tell you, of course, that's who we're talking to. Now, the letters we are reading, we are told, are a collection from a woman's home. That woman's name is Miss Emily Gibson. I believe it's Gibson. It's in the start. One sec. I'll grab it just to make sure. I know it's a G. Yeah, Emily Gibson. Emily Gibson writes for the paper, and she wants to do a story on Mrs. Lovett. It seems she's doing some sort of research on her, and to her knowledge, she believes that Mrs. Lovett is living at this priory. Now, it was assumed Mrs. Lovett had died in prison, but Emily Gibson is very sure that is not true. Don't do it. No, stop. I have a laptop in front of me, and my cat just tried to climb on it. And so I had to tell him to stop because he was going to break so many things. The story is the letters from this woman at the priory, as well as letters from another nun, a few other, like the interim mother of the house, basically, a couple letters from her father, and a few other odds and ends that kind of tell the story. We are getting the story of a woman's life who has initially said she's not Mrs. Lovett, but again, the title tells you, of course, this has to be Mrs. Lovett, and how she came to be where she is, aka at this priory, and writing these letters. She does hint that she may know who the author, like the woman is, Emily. She thinks she may have seen her, but we don't know anything beyond that. She's just like, oh, have you been here? But we never know what Emily has said to her. We do not have Emily's letters because they were given, like they were sent to the woman she's writing to. So we only have the responses. This was so wild. I love Sweeney Todd the musical. Particularly, there's a revival that occurred that I have the CDs of. It was like it was so cool. I've only listened to the music for it, and I have watched the Angela Lansbury version. I'm not the biggest fan of Tim Burton's version. I don't like it. I'm sorry. But I do very much enjoy the show. I would love to, we're not gonna get into that. I technically went to a production of Sweeney Todd, but it was a very small town local theater production, and I'm not going to discuss it because it was a while ago, and also like very small town production, super tiny town, super itty bitty town, and it feels unfair to really mention it. So I will say I do love the musical, and I would love to see an actual like professional in-person production of it. It was in New York City at a certain point. Krista does not like the musical at all, and also I was not going to pay a ton of money to go see it in New York City when like I know other places have done it. It was just, we hoped the small town one would be incredible and like far exceed expectations, but there were just a number of issues that were outside of the actor's control when we saw it, and we actually did not even stay for the whole show. We left at intermission because I was like, I can't, I'm so sorry. Anyway, back to the book. I have been waiting to read this, like desperately waiting, because I saw it was coming out and I like kept watching it. I kind of hoped I would get it for Christmas. It was on like a wish list, and sadly no, but Libby had it, which is incredible. All the books in this are library books, like either Libby or physical books. I, for some reason, cannot get Hoopla to work for my library or any library. I think maybe the app downloaded wrong. I don't know, but I haven't used Hoopla at all. But I was so excited to see this, and I have read this so quickly. I read a hunk of it last night. I read a hunk of it this morning, and I finished it during my lunch. It is just so interesting. I also am a sucker for an epistolary novel, so reading these letters that like recount all of the things that have happened. Now, what is fun is we do get a hint that perhaps the woman, what is her, she has an actual name listed, hold on, Margaret. Her name in these letters is Margaret. So we get the hint that perhaps Margaret may or may not be recounting things entirely factually to us. But it is very interesting. So we get her from her childhood into when her life changed. And I don't want to tell you too much, but it gets so wild. There are like secret societies introduced. There are like, what is so fun is they bring in the stage show and like the lore of Sweeney Todd, because Sweeney Todd was actually produced as Penny Dreadfuls, I believe. And I had a bind up of them ages ago. Like it came out when Sweeney Todd the movie did, but I did not read it, and I don't even know if I still have it. I may have given it away because I really didn't like the movie and I didn't want to see that cover. So I do know that it was performed, like it was a huge thing in like London itself. And just they bring in elements from it but alter them slightly so that you're not reading like a word for word of Sweeney Todd, even when you get to the point where Mrs. Lovett owns a bake shop. And it was so like fun. It was almost like Easter eggy, but it was handled like in such a clever way that I was like, oh, this is like interesting. Like I know what's gonna happen, but I don't know what's gonna happen. They made some elements even sadder. And a lot of what we're following outside of all of this is there is a child. There is mention of a child that she is desperately looking for consistently. And the idea of this child is like woven throughout the story and is like kind of her raison d'etre, if you will. I said that so badly, but that's really what she's working toward. At a certain point, a child is introduced and she desperately wants to find this child and know what happened to this child. And that really motivates her to do anything at all. Anything that will help her through, she will freaking do it. Even if that means baking men into pies. And I just was obsessed. Like, I was so into this. It's so well done. The letters are very fun. The insertions of little, like, news articles or little events are cool. But also the fact that this opens to tell us, at the very beginning, the opening of this book is that all of these have been collected and compiled by the police. They have put them together because... yeah, the letters and documents and miscellaneous papers gathered from Miss Emily Gibson's rooms after her mother's visit to Whitehall. And so these are just letters that were collected. Like, they've just been sitting. They're all there. The end, I cackled because they tie in more lore, like more London-y lore that I was not expecting. Like, as I was reading, I was like, wait a minute. And right at the end, it just like, boom. And I was like, oh, that's so clever. That is so fun. I love that. I love that so much. So I had the best freaking time reading this. It was a delight. I am so glad that they had it on Libby, because Lord knows when I would have gotten it as a book. And like audiobook, this would have been weird. Like, this is a thing you should read because of the letters element to me. But I was so into it. I'm so glad I got it. I'm so glad I read it. This is incredible. If you like Sweeney Todd, you should read it. I feel like you have to at least have consumed some level of Sweeney Todd before you read this, or like things will be lost upon you. You could watch the Tim Burton version and you'd be fine. I just don't recommend the Tim Burton version. Sorry, I don't, not a fan. I believe you can watch the Angela Lansbury version on a few streaming services like Broadway HD or something. But I was obsessed with this book. Now I'm trying to figure out what I want to read next. I don't know. So I am going to read another Libby book, but I haven't decided if I'm going to read A Botanical Daughter or Paradise Rot. I can hold this up. My iPad is right here. So see, can you kind of see them? So yeah, I haven't decided. I also need to charge my iPad because it's very low because I've been reading primarily on it. I think Paradise Rot is a novella, actually. Maybe I'll hit this one and then do a page count is what I'm gonna do. Cause I think, yeah. I think I'm gonna do Paradise Rot next because I might be able to read that without charging my iPad. It's only 102 pages. So we're gonna do Paradise Rot, which is sapphic. That's all I really know. It's sapphic, it's horror, and things rot. Oh my gosh. Also, they introduced a brief sapphic element in the Mrs. Lovett book, and I was like, what? And it was beautiful, and I loved it, and I wish it had existed for longer, but it was incredible in that moment, and I was there for it. Just FYI. I was very excited. I was like, oh. So just know, I highly, highly recommend The Butcher's Daughter. Please read it. If you like Sweeney Todd, if you like musical theater, I think you will get a huge kick out of it. I was having a blast. But yes, so next book will be Paradise Rot because it's short, and I can knock that out before I charge the iPad. And then Botanical Daughter. I'm not reading right now, but like I can read tonight and get it done pretty quick, I think. So that's the plan. Paradise Rot is next, and we will go from there. So I will talk to you later, Grimelinos. Oh, also, my lovely wife brought me this like brisket sandwich thing for lunch, and it was very, very good, but I'm very, very full now because I ate too fast. It was delicious. My wife is a delight. I already told you she did like a whole Saturday where I got to like just eat all the food I like and chill at home. So yes, my wife is lovely. And I know she's watching this because she watches all my videos. So hi, thank you. But I gotta go. So I will talk to you sometime later tonight, Grimelinos. It is a lovely day outside. It's like warm. That's why I'm wearing a shirt where the sleeves don't go all the way down. I run into that problem a lot actually. But I must go. I'm just babbling now. But I will talk to you later, my dear Grimelinos. Good morning, Grimelinos. I am in the same spot, I think, as the last time I filmed, probably. I am wearing my Salem, Massachusetts sweatshirt, and I have an update for you. I read all of Paradise Rot last night. So this is kind of horror. It feels more literary fiction. So in Paradise Rot, we are following Jo. That's not like her official name, but it's the name in the description. She is Norwegian and has come to, I think someone has a Brighton accent, so it's somewhere around Brighton, I guess. But she has gone there to go to school to get a biology degree, and she and a number of other like foreign exchange students are at this place, the school, but they have to get their own housing. So we start off following her at a hostel, and then she does move in with someone named Carol, and I think it's spelled phonetically, so this is a translated work, but what's interesting is the names when they are told to Jo, who again, her name is not actually Jo. We are shown the actual Norwegian spelling and like probably how to pronounce it, but again, the description just says Jo. So Carol is in this case spelled C-A-R-R-A-L, because that is how she hears it. She moves in with her to this very odd former like brewery. The walls are super thin, they're not even installed very well, and basically when she moves in, she like becomes very fixated on Carol, and it's not entirely so there are elements that make it sound horrifying, like the apartment starts to like grow mold, and there are some mushrooms that like show up in odd spots because the building is just poorly maintained, and at some point they have to bring the compost bins in. So like there is this idea of rot in their environment, and like something is going on with Carol in some capacity, but we don't know what. But the story itself to me really felt more like the infatuation of like your first crush on a girl, because Jo at this point, it seems like realizes she is into Carol, but did not realize perhaps that she was into women before. Someone does ask like, are you a lesbian? But it's like a guy, and she like brushes him off and is like, go away. And so we like don't know if there's no like official her saying what her identity is, but this does feel very like, this is the first girl that I have been fixated on. Like I am very into her, and I either want to be her or I want to become her, because the story really does discuss like the two of them coming together and being like part of each other, and that is a lot of the focus. Now there is like rot mentioned. There are some gross scenes with like rotting apples and like weird molds and all of that in the apartment, and there's some scenes there's a lot of focus on urine, which is odd to me. It's just like a thing that like occurs, like Jo thinks about it a lot, and like at one point there's a scene where she like, Carol didn't flush the toilet, and so she pees on Carol's pee and thinks of their like pee merging, but like it's oddly lyrical. The book is very short, and it was interesting to like read. Like the language was interesting, and following this person who feels very out of place where she is because Joe doesn't really like quite understand and has to like adjust to living in this new space because everything is so much different than Norway. And she's even like, this place, like no house would be like this. And so it's a lot of adjustment. And so it's just interesting. Like it was an interesting read, super, super short. And sorry, I'm unlocking my iPad. Possibly. There we go. So it's just like a very interesting read. But not what I was expecting. I thought it would be more about the like rot aspect. I am returning this early. You're welcome. I don't think there was a wait for that. But I would recommend it if you want like some kind, like a kind of lyrical. It does say that the author is a poet, which explains things, I think. So yeah, it was just like an interesting little read. And now we're moving on to another thing that has plants on the cover. That was not intentional. I just kind of was like, oh, cool, I'll read this one. So I have been trying to read A Botanical Daughter by Noah Medlock for a while. This is a queer Frankenstein retelling, but my library didn't have it. I couldn't find it on KU, and it just so happens that the Libby for the New York Public Library card has it, so I snatched that up so I could read it. So yeah, this will be my next read. I do not know how much I'm actually going to read today, but I wanted to get it pulled up, get it prepped. I've heard very, very good things about this, especially from, oh gosh, Spooky Little Library. Do not eat my Pop-Tart. I have a Pop-Tart up there that my cat, Banks, is trying to just completely smash. Is she Spooky Little Library on both? Hold on. I know, I'm doing a lot of not looking at camera. But let me make sure. Oh, I had two things I needed to tell you about YouTube things, but hold on. Let me find her. I know I'm making sounds. Yeah, it is. So it's Spooky Little Book Nerd. There we go. I always call it the wrong thing. She had said that it was really, really good. Stop eating my Pop-Tart! Stop! These are the pumpkin pie Pop-Tarts I got. He's just like licking the icing off of them. Stop! So she said it was very good. And I'm very excited. But also, the thing I needed to tell you, my asthma is a hot mess today. I slept weird. So my asthma is being a very fun time. So I said Lauren of Happy Haunts Library, but that isn't her YouTube channel anymore. It like still exists, but she's doing a different, I think it does. But she has started another YouTube channel that is specifically just for books. Where did I put this? I thought I made a note so I wouldn't forget. Did I do it on the wrong day? Probably. Yep, I did. Okay, so Lauren's new channel is Haunted Hearts Book Club. So if you're looking for content, she also read How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates, and you should also see her thoughts on it. But yes, so just little asides. But yeah, so I'll be reading The Botanical Daughter next. Oh, and there's a cat that Chloe's barking at. This is a good end. I gotta go. I will talk to you later sometime about A Botanical Daughter. Bye. Hello, Gremolinos. I did not talk to you at all yesterday, mostly because Chloe had a vet appointment really early in the morning and then I had to go to work. Thankfully, the vet appointment was incredibly good news. So as a quick recap of Chloe and what was going on, I've already gone over this, but she did have a tumor on her spleen that caused it to rupture, and we had a biopsy done. We hadn't gotten any results at all. And on Wednesday, we finally were like, did you get results? Like, do you know what's going on? And so we found out officially that the tumor is benign, which is fantastic. Any tumor is not good, but a benign tumor is the best. And also her cell count was doing well, so she doesn't have to go back for like 2.5 weeks. So we're not going back until like the first Saturday of April, which is great. So things are going really well. That was all good. It was a really good appointment. It just like I had work after that, and then I was really tired, and then we were doing some stuff at home, and I did not have the energy to vlog. Also, I hadn't read anything. But speaking of Chloe, weirdly enough, I have an update for you on A Botanical Daughter. I am halfway through. I'm also wearing this Harley and Ivy sweatshirt because Ivy is basically botanical. But in this, again, only halfway through, we are following Simon and Gregor, and it's, is it late 1800s? Hold on, I think there's a date in here somewhere, maybe. Did I make that date up? Oh, stop. Brune. They've been so noisy. There's a date in here somewhere. It's 1800s-ish, so like Victorian-y. Simon and Gregor live in a giant greenhouse. And the reason behind this is Gregor is a botanist and he has always had this greenhouse and he is from money. He had a family estate, but it did burn down and he is now like an adult orphan who lives solely in this greenhouse. And he and Simon are confirmed bachelors, which in Victorian code is their boyfriends. They're living together. They're a couple. And at a certain point in this, Gregor receives a mycelium. He's a very intense botanist. He orders things from all over the place, and he has convinced someone to give him this mycelium that appears to actually be protecting and also helping a plant grow, which is very interesting. And so Gregor becomes fixated on the idea of creating something with this mycelium. Can he create a consciousness with the mycelium kind of as a base, because it is seeming to learn, grow, have consciousness, blah, 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 blah. So we're focusing on that. And also Simon is a taxidermist. He does very interesting taxidermy, more like comments on society with his taxidermy. He doesn't really sell it, he just kind of makes it. It seems as though they're probably both from money, or if Simon is not from money, Gregor makes enough money that it like has enough money that it doesn't really matter. And they just live in this greenhouse together. But Gregor does try and convince Simon to assist him with this project of making what he calls a botanical daughter eventually. That is not the original concept. So this is because Simon has worked with dead bodies before, animals, but he still kind of has a general idea. So the two of them are going to be working together, sort of. Simon is a bit tentative about this, but Gregor is fixated. He really wants to see this project through. Now, during all of this, a girl named Jennifer, who has previously taken in their laundry, she would do their laundry, she would bring it back, because they don't really do any of their household things. Her father actually asked if they can take her on as a maid, because he's like, I can't really keep having her here. Like, I don't make enough money. Please, if you could help me, it would be great. And they're like, and Simon agrees, primarily because he does hear that her dear friend has died. The friend's name is Constance, just for name purposes. And they wind up taking her in. She becomes their housekeeper, and she does become more as the story is progressing, solely because a botanical daughter is the whole basis of this book. And thus a botanical daughter is going to be made. And if you have a daughter and you are two men who have no idea how to take care of a daughter, what do? You have a woman assist you, aka Jennifer. The humorous thing though is that they named the botanical daughter Chloe. It's in all caps because it's apparently some kind of like shorthand or acronym of some kind for the plants that were used to create this being. And I'm not going to go into the process of that, but it was just like, Chloe? Its name is Chloe. Her name is Chloe. And I just kept being like, oh my goodness. But again, I am only halfway through. I am enjoying it so far. It feels modern take on a Victorian story. So the language feels Victorian-esque, but also still kind of modern. And I am very much enjoying it. Oddly though, it is making me think of the show My Two Dads. Krista and I were watching it pretty consistently, but it's kind of like two men who have different personalities wind up having to raise a daughter together. And that's what I'm getting from this. Because like there's a daughter and Simon is a bit more like together, prepared, whereas Gregor is kind of all over the place and very messy. Think The Odd Couple. The premise was very similar in My Two Dads, but they were raising a daughter. So now I just keep thinking of this as the Victorian My Two Dads, if the two dads had actually been a couple, because in My Two Dads they're not a couple, but it feels coupley. But Simon and Gregor, definitely a couple. I am enjoying it so far. I'll give you more thoughts later. I'm enjoying the writing. I think it's very fun. I like all the characters so far. And we are seeing more of Chloe, the creature, not Chloe, the lovely Rottweiler who's over there taking a nap. But I gotta go. I just wanted to fill you in on some positive things. Like, Chloe's in very good health right now. Slowly, she will get to come off of some of her meds. She's on a lot now. But hey, I don't have to force feed her a liver pill anymore. They said I could put it in a pill pocket. So whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop, because she loves those pill pockets and it makes my life so much easier. But yes, I will fill you in when I read more of The Botanical Daughter. I don't know when that's going to be. Hopefully sometime tonight. Though I think Krista and I are going to watch the Love is Blind reunion. That show is so strange to me. Everyone is chaos. But I think we're going to watch that tonight. But yeah, I gotta go. I will talk to you sometime later today. Hopefully, Gremolinos. Oh, hello, Gremolinos. It is late-ish in the evening. We've just done final outs with the dogs. I'm in my pajamas. And I am here.
Okay down there?
Yes.
What was the growling?
Bruni tried to take Kira's cheese bone. And he did not succeed. And so she yelled at him. But yeah, so it's late in the evening. Krista is upstairs hanging out with Goose for a little bit. Because Goose does not like hanging out with the dogs. So yeah, so she is upstairs. And I'm down here for a little bit. But I finished A Botanical Daughter. Ta-da! I gave you kind of the rundown of this for the most part. The second half of the book really focuses on Chloe and Chloe's connection to Jennifer, which if you read the book, there is also something else going on between them, kind of. You'll understand when you read it, but I thought it was really well handled. Now, I will say, as the book progresses, we do see Gregor kind of taking on this sort of quote-unquote mad scientist identity. He seems to be more fixated on the viability of his research as opposed to the being he has created being truly a botanical daughter. So you do see that in a shift. You also see Simon's shift in how he perceives the being that they are technically creating together, even though this is predominantly Gregor's research. We also get a bit more time with Jennifer as she becomes closer to Chloe because she is in the house, the greenhouse, more frequently. So it was very interesting to watch all the different dynamics unfolding around Chloe and how people were attaching or detaching themselves from her. The book then gets into a lot more of a discussion. Sorry, there's totally a hair on my mouth. More into a discussion of Jennifer's connection to the friend who has, I don't know if it's in the synopsis. I'm not gonna pull it up. Has to a friend. And so there's a lot of examination of that. I will say the ending was interesting. Oh, my battery needs charge. The ending was interesting for me because it didn't go the way I was expecting. And also there were some things that occurred at the end that I just found like remarkably sad for the for the progression of the story, because something does occur where I was like, really? Like, this had to happen? Overall, I did enjoy it. I think it's an interesting story. I kind of wish there had been a different ending, just personally, because as the story progressed, I began to dislike Gregor more and more, and I kind of wanted something else to happen. But I will not discount the fact that the ending, for a lot of readers, I think will be positive-ish. I think some people will really enjoy it. I just like, some stuff happened. I was like, really? That's where we're going with this? Okay. But again, overall, I did enjoy the story. I think it's an interesting take on the Frankenstein's monster storytelling device, because there are different people involved with the evolution of the creature, quote unquote, in this, kind of in the way it is for Frankenstein in the story, but this is more direct. And more kind of all tied together. It is a very family focused story in that sense. So I did enjoy it. I just kind of wish the ending had been different in a couple of ways. But that would definitely spoil everything for you. But that is my thoughts overall. I think it's a very cool retelling. I highly recommend. I think a lot of folks will enjoy it. And it has a lot of queer rep, which is very nice. But yeah, I'm done with that, and the other book is upstairs. So see, and I'm gonna cough a lot. So I just thought I would tell you my thoughts on this one, and then tomorrow morning I will tell you about the final book in the vlog, which you already should know because I told you about it, but I will officially show it to you tomorrow morning when I have a charged battery and am getting ready for work. So yeah, I will see you in the morning, Gremolinos. Hello, Gremolinos. It has been many days, like many days. I think the last time I talked to you was Thursday, and I had planned to talk to you Friday morning about The Fisherman. And then I started reading The Fisherman and realized that I could not talk to you about this book until I finished it because of how the book is set up. So The Fisherman by John Langan is the March Literally Dead Book Club pick, but I don't think the live show is until the first week of April. I think is how, like the first weekend of April or somewhere in there. This technically follows Abe and Dan, who are widowers in upstate New York who go fishing. But let me see. Yeah, so this does move a bit past the plot on the back of the book. So I'm going to do my best not to spoil anything, but give you like general thoughts and things. So we are following Abe primarily as our narrator. He has become a widower after his wife, Marie, who is not married to for an incredibly long amount of time, she did get sick and she has died. But he is a widower in that he knew an end was coming and they could kind of plan for that. And we were following his initial story and how one day after basically grieving incredibly, he woke up and was like, I want to go fishing. And he was like, that's so strange because I'm not really a fisher. Like, he doesn't really go fishing, but he gets this urge to just go fishing. Let me put this And so he decides to go fishing, buys gear to go fishing, talks to people about going fishing, and he goes fishing. And fishing becomes kind of a thing he does pretty consistently. It's something to pass the time. It's something that gives him a routine. It's something that keeps him from just drinking and kind of wallowing. As his story progresses, he works at IBM. That carries over throughout the book, because a man at his office named Dan, who has been an incredibly good worker, one of those guys that like basically doesn't take a lunch, comes in super early, corporate loves him. Dan also becomes a widower, but Dan's widower journey is much different. Dan becomes a widower very suddenly, and also children are involved. So Dan's story is a bit different than Abe's, but Abe is explaining that he decides to take Dan kind of under his wing unintentionally. He is talking about fishing at work, and Dan kind of pops in and is like, "You're going fishing?" And Abe is basically like, "Yep." And then feels like he should probably offer. Maybe Dan wants to go, and he's kind of like, "Do you want to come?" Expecting Dan to say no. And Dan basically is like, "Yeah, sure." So Abe and Dan wind up becoming sort of odd friends. Abe is much older than Dan. He's kind of like, we wouldn't be friends outside of this. Like, it's very strange to me. But they are both kind of the only widowers that they're aware of. So it is very much that their grief has brought them together. Now, we do learn Dan has previously fished. He fished with his father, his grandfather. It was kind of a thing he did. And the two of them just start fishing. Becomes a routine, a habit. They go pretty consistently. And then one day, Dan mentions wanting to go to a particular fishing location. And Abe's kind of like, "I've never heard of this place. What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, it's not called the Fisherman. Is it on the back?" Okay, no. It's called, this calls it Dutchman's Creek, but it's actually Deutschmann's Creek, which would be German man's creek. Like, it wouldn't be a Dutchman, but it's spelled Deutsch, and so people started calling it Dutchman's Creek. He's like, "I want to go here." And it was kind of like, "I've never heard of it. Where the heck is this? What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, I found it in a book. Like, this very important book about upstate New York." And Dan's like, "Okay, I guess, if you're like super adamant about it, whatever." And on a day where it's very, very rainy, they stop for breakfast and they meet Howard, who like runs this diner. And Howard begins relaying them the story about Dutchman's Creek, aka Deutschman's Creek, and some figure called Der Fishermann, or the Fisher. And he's relaying the story, and that's why the book is so difficult to kind of explain as you're reading it, because part one is not very long, and it establishes how Abe and Dan meet and how they begin fishing. And then part two is huge, and part two is Howard relaying the story of a woman named Lottie who knows the history of the creek and all of this stuff. Now, all of the Lottie portion begins the cosmic horror aspect of the story. That is a reason that it was picked for the Literally Dead Book Club, is its cosmic horror. It delves deeply into how this creek came to be and all of these like myths and legends around the creek. And this gets into the more like, okay, I'm going to establish that H.P. Lovecraft is a terrible, terrible person. He's horrible, really bad. If you want to Google it, go ahead. He's not a good person. He, though, is kind of a catalyst for cosmic horror. So a lot of the things I know from cosmic horror come from Lovecraft work or Lovecraft inspired work. And based on that, like, lens, a lot of the cosmic horror elements, once they're revealed, feel very Lovecraftian, because there is this water element and there are these, like, water aspects. I don't want to spoil anything because it's not on the back of the book. So there are some things that feel like, as you're reading them, you're like, oh, that feels derived from Lovecraft, because there's a mention of sort of fish beings, which are a thing. But it also gets into a lot of like deeper lore and discussions of the end of the world and Leviathan. And so that expands into almost religious, because they do mention kind of like looking at the Bible, discussing the Bible. That does come up in this area. But this entire section goes very far back. It goes into like the late 1800s, early 1900s, and the establishment of a reservoir. And there was a lot of history of like upstate New York wrapped into this. And it was really, really interesting. But that section is so big and it's pretty dense, because if you're not paying attention, you are going to miss something, because the story encompasses the grief of a number of people. And so if you miss why or what was being told, you won't understand what's going on. So you have to pay a lot of attention. So it took me a really long time to read this, even though it's only like 263 pages. It's just dense in a good way. I was very much enjoying the story, but just know as you're reading it that you have to pay attention. You will miss things, and we are being relayed this as a story. And what's interesting is Abe tells us in part 1 that he is telling us what Howard told him, but he has, over the course of time, realized that he now knows things that Howard didn't include in the story, and he does not know how, but he is going to be able to tell those to you because somehow that knowledge is now in him. So there's a bit of like auto writing in there, the idea of some kind of divine knowledge coming to you somehow, and it will make sense as you're reading it why Abe would suddenly know things. So that is very curious to me, and I did enjoy it, but again, it's very dense. That middle section establishes so much. The lore of the Fisher, also the lure of the Fisher, actually, but it's very interesting. And then we move back into section 3, which is again also pretty small, and it's Abe and Dan and the creek. So the book itself, like the main plot involving this creek, primarily only takes place over, like for Abe and Dan, is not a lot of time. Like them at the creek is not a lot of time, but the book itself is a lot of time in that there is a story within a story. And that's very interesting. We do move beyond that moment where Abe is discussing some events at like after everything at the creek, which is very interesting. But it gets very creepy. And Abe is very much changed by events at the creek, but I really enjoyed it. And I also feel like at this point, I've now learned that I perhaps really enjoyed grief horror, because this is the second grief horror book that I've liked a lot. And it was so creepy and weird and interesting, and the setup of the Fisher and everything the Fisher was doing like wound up involving a lot of different aspects of grief for a number of people in this like very broad story of like, what would you do if you could bring someone you love back? And that is very much the core of everything going on as you're following everyone. And it was just very cool and also horrifying. And the things that occur at the creek, horrifying, truly horrifying. And Abe will tell you it is all very, very horrifying. And following Abe is great. Abe is a good lens. He is grieving, but he is slightly removed from his grief in that he's had more time to process than Dan. So following Abe, we get more time. And from what I can tell, Abe is writing this from like many years later, so he's had time to reflect. So he is less. Salem is staring outside. It's not Salem, it's Goose. I meant to say, hi.
Hi.
I meant to say Goose. She's so, I'm gonna show you. Okay, hold on. I will get back to my thoughts on the book. Just please hold. She looks very cute. She's so washed out. Ta-da! She's in the window. She's fine. The window is closed. But she's like, I'm watching the neighborhood. I'm on it. I am neighborhood watch Goose. Yeah, she's trying to look very like, I am head of this house. Harumph. Yeah, she's very intense. Okay, I'm gonna move this back to me really quick. But I did very, very much enjoy this. I also like cosmic horror, so I think that helps. But what's interesting is the other grief horror I read was also cosmic horror. So it's just so interesting in the ways they took cosmic horror, because the cosmic horror in that is, it was, This Thing Between Us. That cosmic horror is different. This cosmic horror is very fish focused, and they do actually say, like, this is a fishing story. This is ultimately, everything you're reading is a fishing story, which is very clever. So I did really enjoy it. I would say try not to have anything distracting on in the background, like just music or like casual television or something that you don't need to pay attention to, because you really do have to pay attention. But this is very good. The payoff is good. So yeah, I very much enjoyed this. I need to make dinner though, because this took me forever. Yeah. Oh, Goose is annoyed because all the cats are on the bed. But I need to head downstairs. So yeah, I enjoyed all the books I read in this. Can I remember all the books I read in this at this point? No. I've been filming this for many days. Krista is chilling with the cats. She's trying to get Goose to come back over to her now that she's out of the window. But I did. Yes. Yes, I did. I genuinely can't remember what I read. What did I read? This book? Oh, How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates was fine.
Her head doesn't fit her body anymore.
No. Goose is very big, but her head is a little tiny. I think that's, I know those two. What else the heck did I read? Oh, The Botanical Daughter. Oh, The Butcher's Daughter. And there's another book, Paradise Rot. There we go. I did enjoy everything. I will say this one is the most literary of all of them, but it was genuinely a good time. I'm very curious to see what people think in the live show, but I need to make dinner. I've already said that like 8 times, but I gotta go. So let me know if you've read any of these, what your thoughts were. I would be very curious to know people's thoughts on How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates and The Fisherman, since those are coming up. But well, since those were literally Dead Book Club picks, so I feel like a lot of people have read those. But also please tell me your thoughts on all the rest of them. I'm so curious, but I must go. Things, like, subscribe, all that jazz. I'm also on Instagram, same name over there. Yeah, that's it. Sorry that I didn't talk to you about this until I finished it, but there was no way to do it without being very complicated. I will see you in the next one, Gremlinos.